As I currently sit here right now, it is August 19th, 2:48 Pacific Standard Time, and we are in the same place that we were all of last week. Obviously, there's been some small updates, but nothing really to just pound home on. So I'm just going to kind of recap where we are at. It's Monday. We've made it through another preseason game. Brandon Aiyuk is still not signed. Trent Williams is still not signed. And where are the San Francisco 49ers going from here? Well, Albert Breer put out in the Monday morning quarterback column this little piece about Brandon Aiyuk in the situation that they're at. He says the Brandon Aiyuk situation drags on, and I don't have a whole lot to add on to it. Shocking. That's kind of about where we've been for about a week now. The San Francisco 49ers star didn't want to go to New England, which offered him more than $30 million per year in its proposal, 32.5 to be exact, or the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers' price point was less than $28 million, which put Pittsburgh right in the neighborhood the Niners were inhabiting. With Mike Tomlin's presence, there, the drawing card. That in turn pushed Ayuk back to the table with the Niners. Well, one of the reasons why it pushed not only Brandon Aiyuk, but the San Francisco 49ers back together is because the San Francisco 49ers are now matching offers that are more similar to New England and the Cleveland Browns. I think that is one of the pitfalls of allowing Brandon Aiyuk to go seek what his value is on the open market. And when he went out, worked out those deals, they came in over 30, some well over 30. And I think that forced the 49ers to realize, like, okay, well, if we at one point wanted Brandon Aiyuk at 28 and he was willing to accept 28, well, unfortunately, we're not getting that now because we've let the market dictate what we're doing rather than getting ahead of it. So now the 49ers are more in a reactive state where they are presenting an offer from what we've heard being in the $30 million per year range. And the 49ers and Ayuk are currently at a bit of a standstill. I think one of the other things, too, is also realizing that the 49ers aren't going to trade Brandon Ayuk to the Pittsburgh Steelers if all they are going to get in return is draft picks. We've heard that throughout the updates and reports from the newsbreakers and all those different types of things that the 49ers were in the market for a number one wide receiver to get in return for or in some other form or fashion if they were to trade Brandon Aiyuk. But according to everything that we've heard, they exhausted all options. Nothing was going to come back or make sense for them. So that's why they have come back to the negotiation table. And that's why I do believe we are currently here without much movement, is because the 49ers aren't going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. I've said this before. I hold out for 99.9% when I feel something very strongly. The reason I leave 0.1% is because anything can happen in the NFL. Things change all the time. Even though things are trending in a direction, that doesn't mean it's going to be. So in this particular instance, I'm going to say it's 99.99% chance that Brandon Aiyuk isn't getting traded because the 49ers won't get the compensation in return. They aren't going to get rid of a player just to get rid of him. We saw that with Jimmy Garoppolo. So if they're not going to be able to get a return on a player like Brandon Aiyuk when they clearly need a number one X wide receiver, probably makes sense just to keep Brandon Aiyuk, right? Because you are trying to win a Super Bowl this year. That is the goal. Obviously, by waiting this long and you're potentially going to lose out on a player or two just for the simple fact of waiting and allowing the market to dictate what Brandon Aiyuk is going to get instead of getting ahead of the market and looking like geniuses and getting Brandon Aiyuk on a deal that looks so good. If you had just signed it 3 or 4 months ago, now you're in a situation where you've gone through all options and there's nothing left to do other than to pay Brandon Aiyuk. So we find ourselves what feels like in a staring match. I've talked about this before. It just feels like The line in the sand has been drawn. Both teams are face to face up against this line, and they are just waiting to see which side will cross first. From all reports, it does sound like the bulk of the deal has been agreed to in principle. There's just a minor detail that is really hanging this situation up. So it's up to one of these sides to accept the terms from the other. Um, so that's where we are continuing to be at. Again, on Monday, August 19th, as I'm now been speaking through this, it's now 2:54 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that we are currently in a standstill. We are currently at a bit of a face off between Ayuk's camp and the 49ers camp, and coming together on terms on a contract that would keep Brandon Aiyuk here likely for 3 to 4 more years. So it's a fascinating scenario because, again, what are the options here? I think there's only one option, and that option is paying Brandon Aiyuk. So, how long are we going to do this? I think that is the question that we are now kind of like trying to understand. We understand the options. The options are Brandon Ayuk returns to the 49ers. That's really it. I don't see any other pathway other than the 49ers throwing their hands up, saying they're done with this, taking a complete bath by trading Brandon Ayuk for draft capital that will not help them this year. That's the only way that I think anything changes. And I still don't think the 49ers will do that. Again, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo practice on the side field for an entire offseason while the 49ers tried to shop him. Didn't get anything in return of value that they liked. They ripped up his deal, signed him to a new deal so that he could play. And that's exactly what happened. So the 49ers have proven they will not trade a guy just to trade him. They want to get a quality return, and that's good business. That's absolutely what you should do. But because of that, again, we are in the standstill of what and when is this thing going to be pushed over the finish line. Again, we're staring at the finish line. We can see it. Our toes are right up against it. It's when are we going to take that step across it to get this thing done? Obviously, the things that you have to now look out for are Brandon Ayuk has not been practicing. Obviously, he has an off-season regimen. He's been staying in shape, but it probably would be nice to get Brandon Ayuk at minimum about 2 weeks, hopefully 3 weeks worth of practices and potentially a preseason game under his belt to make sure that he's ready to go for the regular season. Obviously, we know that these contract negotiations take a toll on players, as said by Debo, as said by Nick Bosa, as said by George Kittle. It's just the nature of the business. So the thought process is we've already the 49ers have already wasted a lot of time in this regard. And it's just how much more time are we going to waste? Because it doesn't feel like there's much room here for anything else to really occur other than just losing on valuable time. So that's the way that I'm kind of looking at this. I know everyone has a different opinion. There's a lot of different, we've seen fans picking sides and those. I'm trying to look at this more holistically, high level, looking at the way the timeline, the situation, how everything's played out, the options available or lack thereof, and now where we currently stand. So the goal is, though, to win football games. The goal is to have a successful 2024 season. The goal is to get a guy who is an all pro back with your quarterback so you can elevate the offense. That's the goal. It's just at what price, I guess, are the 49ers willing to pay for that? That's where we're at. That's where we remain to be at. And again, there's really just there's not going to be many substantial updates other than the fact of they're either trading him or they're not. And I really don't think they're going to trade him based on the return that they would get. But you guys let me know what you think about this whole situation, where we are currently at, the hang up that we are currently witnessing, all of these different types of things. What needs to happen for this thing to get done? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.